Welcome to Lead Today with me, Kalyna. Let's talk leadership. Oh, hey, love to be back with you, and we continue along the road. We are almost there. We're doing part 3, chapter 18, service. So if you're new to the series, we're talking about my book, Memorable Lessons to Leave a Legacy. I thought it would be great to really chat with you personally about each chapter, why I wrote it, what it's about, and hopefully you grab the book or you answer some of these questions for yourself from this episode and bring this quality into your life a little bit more. I think that would be great. That would be a win in my book. So, service. Why service? I think when I sought out to write this book, I was really ego-driven. I thought that writing a book was what I was supposed to do. It was the right thing to do. It was what entrepreneurs, coaches did. Oh, I'll write a book. I sort of flippantly thought of it, agreed to it, set out to do it, really without much thought, which was a huge learning curve for me. Because you don't write a book lightly. You really don't. Not if you want it to make a difference and be meaningful, and that's what I wanted. So I had to think this through. And in thinking it through, being in service, the idea of being in service to the reader was what came through so strongly. It changed the whole trajectory of the book for me. And so why would I have a chapter on being in service? Well, because creating value for your people, for your audience, for you in this episode, right? Or the reader of this book, or the person that takes my course, or the person that coaches with me, creating value is what we do. That's why we get paid for things, right? Payment, money, is really just an exchange for value that you're being given. Money stores value. So how could I write a book about building a career without talking about the value that you're creating for your people, right? You're solving a problem for people every day through your work, whether you are an employee or you have a business, you're solving problems all day long and creating solutions. And so in creating solutions, you're creating value for your end user, for your company, for yourself, for your family. When you make dinner, you're creating value. So no matter what you do, really, I think you're creating value, and value should be, or I've learned, is tied into the spirit of service, because you can have something that's valuable. And this is where I think criticism comes in with NFTs or with cryptocurrencies, where people think, okay, but what's the inherent value in this thing? Maybe really expensive artwork, right? Where if it's by a certain artist, oh, now it's worth $100,000. But really the inherent value is similar to, let's say, an unknown artist, in the sense that, well, how can you judge art? I won't go too into that topic because I'm not an expert there, but the idea of value being sort of, there's a huge intangible component to value and what's valuable. And similarly, I think the spirit of service, while you can have it as, let's say, your company mantra or slogan, right, of like, just do it, or I'm loving it. I mean, those things kind of point toward what someone's spirit of service is, right? Or what their brand stands for, what you can expect from them. I think what I'm aiming for in this chapter on service is for you to kind of define, okay, how do I deliver value? What is the service I want to provide? What level of service, what kind of service, right? Am I really high touch? Am I somebody that's personalized in everything I do? Am I somebody that automates things and really likes to batch and create lots of stuff that's similar? And so work on quality assurance and have, 100 units of, or 1,000 or 10,000 units of, let's say, a book go out all standardized? Or am I somebody that's into, custom made sweaters? You might like both, but I think it's important to understand what kind of service you're here to provide, and you want to provide your people, and what your people expect from you. So, if you go in and you go to get a latte, you expect a certain level of service. If you buy an engagement ring and you spend thousands of dollars, you expect another level of service. So also with the amount of value delivered, if the type of service delivered from a business perspective is obviously different, right? We know that inherently. I think that's a piece of this, right? So business, delivering in business, what kind of service level do you provide as a business owner? But then if you're an employee, you're still providing service. And while the company would like to hold you to a certain standard of service, you are also creating your own reputation. And so part of why I wrote this was for you to really consider, okay, what is my personal brand of service for me? Even if you're an employee and you don't have your own company, it doesn't mean that you don't become known for something. And so the service you provide, the way you make people feel at the end of the day, right? We know that that's how they'll remember us. And granted, I am not, there are lots of ways you could describe me, and I work to have an authentic brand presence, to deliver a level of service that is with integrity. So I follow through with what I say I'm going to do. If I can't, I say that. I think integrity is inherently linked with service and being in service and having service as a value. Spirit of service, showing up that way as a value, means you show up saying, how can I help? Right? In situations, and no request is kind of too big or too small. So that's kind of what we get into here, and packaging your contribution. So there's a framework in the book to talk about packaging how it is that you serve your people, whether that's via a job or your own company or service offering that you have of your own. So we look at that in the chapter on service. And I think that overall, I wrote this because it's something that I keep coming back to. How can I best serve the people that are listening to this show? Sometimes I think it's through my personal stories, right? Like if something happens and I can share with you and you can gain value from what I've experienced, then that's fantastic. And that's one way to serve you. But most times on these episodes, right, I'm trying to interview somebody that would be interesting, or share a piece of information or research that I've found that could maybe be useful. That's what I'm trying to do when I'm delivering service to you is, okay, how can I change minds or hearts in the world, right? How can I open people's minds and hearts, and maybe make them a little bit more loving, or a little bit more satisfied with their work, or a little bit more fulfilled, on a deeper level through what they spend their time on. So, I mean, service, this episode, this chapter, has changed the way, that I really approach my business and my life within my marriage, my life. I see it directly with my dog, because we both provide each other some type of service, and there's no monetary exchange. And yet, we both have a real attitude of service toward each other, because we don't expect anything back. So Max is a really great example of being in service. And the questions I would leave you with from this episode are relatively simple, but I think profound, which is, okay, what value do I want to create for my people? How do I want to go about creating it, right? How can I package it? And really coming from a place of your brand, and by your brand, I mean your reputation is really built upon how you serve. You can market all you want, but if it's not in integrity with how you serve people, how you show up when you deliver your offer, whatever your offer is to the world as an employee or business owner, if what you market is not in alignment with what you offer, there's obviously cognitive dissonance there. There's not just cognitive dissonance. I mean, there's a disconnect between what you're saying and what you're offering. And that doesn't work well, not for a long time. You can get away with it for a little bit, but you have to be in integrity. So I think service, coming from a true spirit of service and being in integrity and showing up, admitting when you're wrong, because God knows I'm wrong a lot. So admitting when you're wrong or when you've made a mistake, and being willing to really show up and answer the question, how can I serve? What value can I provide? How can I help? Those are all the questions that I would ask you to journal on if you're following along with this series, and kind of journaling on your ideas, and link it to the earlier chapters. If you haven't listened to or read in the book, the chapter on purpose, I would definitely recommend that one. In the book itself, there's a whole list of spiritual gifts that could be useful for you, gifts that you could have, that I think we all have a unique mix of, and so in the way you provide service, it'll link to your purpose. So definitely have a listen to the chapter on purpose if you haven't already, or scan that chapter if you've got the book with you. And then come to this chapter again and really think about, okay, how can I use my gifts to help? And that's really all you're doing. You're packaging in this service chapter, you are packaging how you help. And that's what I endeavored to do in the chapter. And it was a tough lesson to learn of, okay, it's not about me at all. It's not about what I want. It's not about how I want to help. It's not about what I think is right. None of that actually matters. I mean, it can spark an idea. It can spark an idea to say, oh, I'd really love to do this podcast, right? That was my idea. Oh, I'd love to do a podcast. But then what becomes of the podcast? How I serve you in this podcast, the way that I continue to make episodes in this podcast, it comes from me seeing, okay, which episodes do you listen to? Which ones are not really listened to? What interviews are people interested in? Oh, which ones are people not? Because that signals to me, this is of value, this isn't. And so I'm here to provide value to you. As much as I like talking, I need to be saying things that are meaningful to you, or else we're not in an exchange, which is what this is. I talk, you gain something. You think about something new. You try something different. You approach a subject in a new way. That's what we're here for. So if we're not doing that from these episodes, I'm not delivering the value I set out to deliver. And so by asking you questions in this series, my hope is that you're oh, how can I help? How do I help people? What's my unique brand of service? What does that even mean? I mean, I've never even thought about that. I am who I am. It's like, okay, well, name out some of those qualities. Who are you? Right? And how does that translate to the service you provide, even as an employee, especially as an employee? What are the qualities that you bring to the table that are unique to you? Because it's what makes you indispensable in a company. It's what your reputation is built upon. It's not about the company you work for. It's about what you're known for, your name. So be intentional about the type of service you provide, and really, as much as you can, which this is an aim, not a definitive thing that happens all the time, but as much as you can, I would say, aim at being in service in everything that you do outside of yourself, right? I mean, you need time to recharge. That's why part 1 of this book is all about you. So if you're not in a place to serve right now, head to the episodes from part 1 of the book, right? The first 6, 7, 8 episodes or so, head over there, because those are all about who are you, what do you need, what's important to you. Part 3 of the book is all about outward. How are you giving? How do you give? How do you help? The idea with this chapter, as I've said, but hopefully I've made clear in this episode, is what's your unique flavor? How do you show up in this world that's different from anyone else? And what do you want to be known for? So how do you help? What do you want to be known for? What's your, personal brand slogan? What type of service do you provide? How do you package that service? Those are all questions that I would leave you with today to kind of mull over and think about as you go on in your day and week. And I hope to see you in the next episode, which is going to be chapter 19. We're approaching the end, shockingly, actually. And it's chapter 19 on authenticity. So if you're liking this series, like this episode, subscribe, review the show. Anything you can do to interact with this content really means a lot and changes the way that this gets out to people. Share it with somebody that might need to hear this information. And of course, if you haven't already, please buy a copy of Memorable. There's an ebook, there's a hardcover, the paperback is going to come out. There will be an audiobook. That's the final thing to come out. So please do get a copy. It makes a difference. Your reviews on the book, on the podcast, expressing your opinions matters. It matters so much beyond this book. Just getting your thoughts and wishes heard is so important. And so likewise with this book, it means a lot if you review, like, share, any of those things. So I hope this is providing you with value. That's what I'm endeavoring to do here. And I'd really love to see you in the next chapter on authenticity. It's another word and quality that is very near and dear to my heart, and I strive to embody every day. So I hope to see you there. And thanks so much for listening to this whole series. It means a lot. I'm shocked actually at the reception of this series, I kind of thought, oh, no one's going to want to hear me talking and rattling off about why I wrote this or what this is for. But interestingly enough, I think the questions are very valuable, and the meaning and reasoning behind adding each quality is very profound to me. I really thought about each quality. I didn't just kind of pick at whim. So the qualities in this book have been really thoughtfully added. And so it seems to be that you're resonating with that, which I'm so happy about, because I really put my heart and soul into this book, and spent a lot of time thinking through what needed to be in here to get the reader from point A to point B. And the point A is, maybe unsure about the legacy you're leaving, or not happy about the legacy. Maybe you've never thought about it at all, to really a thought out, mission driven approach to the way that you contribute to the world. Because I think if you're going to contribute, you might as well do it like your life depends on it, because it sort of does. At least a life of meaning does, if you show up with a real spirit of service and contribution, and being willing to use your special gifts, the things that you're uniquely gifted with. We need that. We need people that care about the missions that they're on. And in some future episodes, I've got some interviews coming up as well of people that really are doing mission driven work. And it's just such a difference from people that are kind of working a 9-to-5 versus people that are really living out a mission, like, it's like, no, I have to be doing this work. These are the people I have to impact. I'm so passionate about it. It could bring me to tears. Like, that's the level of commitment you want, because you don't get your time back. And that's another reason I wrote this book. You don't get your time back. This is your time, this now, like, it literally, it's ticking away. I mean, there's a sense of urgency there, right? So make the most of this life that you have, because you do not get those moments back. These moments right now, these years, and when you're 80 and you look back on your life, what do you want to say? And I that comes up in a future chapter, so I'll probably reiterate that, because it's just cannot be said enough. It really can't. That's mentioned in the chapter on resourcefulness. Look, your time is the most precious resource you have, and so utilize it as best as you can, as much as you can, because that's the one thing you can't get back. So again, thank you for spending your time with me today. Another little rant. I hope you found this useful, and please do grab a copy of Memorable, or share this episode, or review. Take an action after listening to this episode, so that you can spread the word about this book. It would mean a lot. Thanks again. See you next time.